Okay, let's see. That's off, that's off, that's off, that's on. That says the stream is live. Let's get into it. Hello, Shadowcat back. Let me check my mic here. That was a little bit hot. There we go, that seems better. Alright, hello, Shadowcat back. We're back and we're doing more of the anime framework. This is all the boring stuff that we have to do before we can get into the fun stuff later on. I mean, it's got to be done. That's all there is to it. It's got to be done. We gotta put this stuff down so we can do things like Dragon Ball and Bleach and all kinds of other stuff, because I really want to go do some of those. Maybe not all of them at once. Like, I'm not really an anime channel or anything like that, but I do like them sometimes. And so I want to go and I want to play with them. So we're going to have fun like that. And we're going to get into character creation today. I see already that Alden is in. Hello, Alden. Good to see you. We'll go over what we did last time real quick, but before I do that, obviously, if you are here and you haven't subscribed yet, which I don't think is anybody right now, but hey, any future people that might be watching this, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, that we get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into anime in general, I suppose, or tabletop games, then share this with them. Otherwise, if you like me, like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. You can leave comments down below, or you can leave comments on our Discord server, because we have one of those. The link, it be down there. So, you can leave the comments on the Discord server. In particular, though, if you want to come play with us, because we have a lot of stuff going on. We have a Star Trek game that's currently going, and that's fun. When we last left off, we were in a great big starship combat furball that we're still waiting to see how that resolves. We have an upcoming Warhammer 40k Gene Stealer game, not to mention a lot of modules that I'm still looking for groups for. So if any of this interests you, join the Discord, come to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know what you want to do, let me know when you're available, and as soon as I have a group put together, we'll go play. So, getting back into things. Last time we went over everything that we want to accomplish in this module, which, believe it or not, is not actually all that much. I'm going to just bring everything in so we can take a look at it. So we're going to need our spreadsheet, and we're going to need to have the module, or not the module, but the research stuff. And Alden says a Gene Stealer game sounds cool. Oh, you have no idea how cool. Okay, I'm gonna tangent here. Does anybody mind if I go on a tangent? Because I can go on a tangent right now. Like, who wants to take a field trip? All right, hands up. Who wants to take a field trip? Anybody? Anybody? My hand's up. Nobody? I mean, there is a delay in the stream, so I mean, I gotta kind of wait for chat to catch up every time I ask a question. Which means that I have to awkwardly fill the time. Okay, so I got one rabbit hole and one just shrug. Okay, you are no fun. I'm gonna do it anyway, though. I'm gonna do it anyway. Let me see, let me make sure that I've got it up currently. Let's see. No. Okay, I don't have it up currently. Let me open up that document. Here we go. Gene Stealers. Okay, so, when I did Warhammer 40k, and we spent about 1.5 years on Warhammer 40k, I made sure to go through and do racial statistics for the Imperium. So the Astra Militarum. We tried to do Space Marines, but Space Marines cannot be balanced, which means that Space Marines are no longer NPCs. Space Marines are more of a Space Marines are more of an environmental effect now. Okay. We did the Imperium, we did the Astra Militarum, we did the Adeptus Mechanicus, both the Tech Priests and the Skitarii. Then we did the Tau, and every cast that was in the Tau, and we did the Eldar. And that's where we stopped. Now, why did we stop there? Well, the reason is because almost no other race offers my players agency. So, for example, I didn't do orcs because I'm not letting my players play orcs. And the reason I'm not letting my players play orcs is because orcs don't really have a ton of agency. Orcs have exactly one driving motivation, and that is the war. All they do is fight, okay? They don't build things, they don't construct things, they don't settle things. All they do is fight. And once there is no more fighting, they leave the planet and go looking for another fight. So there's really nothing there for my players to do unless all they want is to be locked into combat like 24/7. There is no social aspect for the orcs. Alright, so who else am I leaving out? Well, I left out the Necrons. And maybe that was a mistake. I left out the Necrons because the Necrons are almost entirely the bad guys. They have not programming, but it's kind of similar. They were a civilization that was working with the Satan during the War in Heaven. And the Satan made them an offer. And that offer is that they would convert their bodies into living metal that would make them more or less indestructible. And they took it. Before realizing that the Satan were not exactly their friends, and that immortality can sometimes suck. Still though, they are an entire race dedicated to war in the name of the Satan, even if they kinda hate the Satan and are trying to rebel against them. There's still not exactly much of a society there. And so who else does that leave? Well, no orcs, no Necrons. Tyranid? Well, the Tyranid are literally mindless. The Tyranid are mindless, and so there's nothing my players can do. You don't have an intelligence score. Your intelligence score is like 3, which is standard for an animal. And so there's not much that you can do, though. Alden says, didn't they succeed, though? Kinda. So, technically speaking, the Necrons did rebel against the Satan. And it was a Pyrrhic victory at best. So, are they still servants of the Satan? No, they're not. The Satan are pretty much gone. There are fragments left of them still, yes, but the Satan are pretty much gone. However, even though the Satan are gone, they're still weapons of the Satan. They don't really have a society, they don't build cities, they don't have art or culture or anything like that. They are still just weapons of war, which is why they went to sleep. And when they wake up, they go back to war. So, didn't they succeed? Technically, yeah, they won. It just cost them literally everything, and they can never recover. That doesn't mean I couldn't do my own, alternate version where I had a group of Necron who woke up and decided they didn't want to do war anymore. I mean, it's well within my capability to do that, but that's not technically the lore for them. Anyway, though, getting back to the Gene Stealer, or the Tyranid. Tyranid are mindless, and so there's really not much you can do. The Tyranid that are not mindless, you know, like the overlords of the Tyranid, well, yes, they are incredibly intelligent. The problem is, most of them are just floating brains. And so they have no actual physical abilities. So on the one hand, you've got the little ground soldiers who have purely physical stats and no mental stats, and then you have all the hive directors who have all the mental stats, but none of the physical stats. You can't play either one of these. So when my players said that they wanted to play a Tyranid game, here I am racking my brain over how to do this, and the only answer that I can come up with is Gene Stealers. Because Gene Stealers are the only ones who come with both physical and mental capabilities. And so that's what we have going. And by the way, this is my pitch, okay? This is my pitch. If anybody wants to come and play Gene Stealers with us, pay attention. So let me go ahead and bring in my other sheet here. And we'll just make this go away for a moment. So, Gene Stealers. The first thing that I had to do was make up the race, because obviously there's nothing in there. Gene Stealers are interesting in that when they, well, let's go over how they operate first real quick. So with Gene Stealers, what the Hive does is it prepares Gene Stealers and then shotguns them across the galaxy. The Hive does not really care where they land, so much as it cares that they will land someday. And if they land on a planet, and if that planet happens to have biomass on it, they will begin the process of trying to integrate themselves into that culture and prepare it for the Hive fleet. For the most part, this only really matters if they land on a planet that has an actual sentient, sapient civilization. I mean, if they land on just a ball that has forests on it and nothing else, then great, that's biomass for free. But Gene Stealers, the interesting Gene Stealer stories are when they land on things like human worlds. And here's what they do. Gene Stealers are Tyranids. And when I say that they are Tyranids, I do mean they are Tyranids in every aspect of the word. Actually, let me pull up a picture of a Tyranid real quick. Let me pull up a picture of a Tyranid. Nope, I want that button, and I want Gene Stealer. Can I get like a picture of the Gene Stealer evolution? Because that would be nice. Okay, not a great picture, but I'll make it work. I'll make it work. Okay, I cannot can't do that. I might actually have to move the window, but that's okay. I'll have to move the window. We'll just move this down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so when they shotgun the Gene Stealers out into the galaxy, they do it with these patriarchs. And this patriarch, as you can see, is not human. Okay, not human. It's going to land on the planet, and at that point, it's going to have to go through and disappear. They're going to go underground, they're going to try and hide, and they're going to do everything they can to spread their genetics. This is why they're called Gene Stealers. They're going to steal your genes. No, not your chinos, okay? So they are an absolute Tyranid. They got big sharp teeth, they got, weird eyes, they've got 4 arms, they've got claws and talons and everything else. Now, when they do manage to breed with the population, and they will, the first generation is still going to be mostly Tyranid. They're called hybrids, and they are basically feral. Okay, so they are just feral Tyranid with a little bit of whatever DNA from the planet, and the only thing that can really control them is, of course, the Patriarch. Once you get into the second generation, though, that's when things get interesting. The second generation are called hybrid acolytes. They combine both bloodlines, and these are the first to have some kind of intelligence, roughly whatever the indigenous population has. They are going to continue to spread, they're going to continue to integrate. They are still too alien to really blend in, but they're getting there. Third generation, these are the first ones who can actually integrate with the population. They do not exactly look like the population. However, in most human societies, they can at least come across as the physically deformed mutants. Which isn't a great life, but it is a life. And then with the fourth generation, we get to the neophytes. They can pass for human and do everything that humans can normally do. The only difference is they are not human, okay? They are not human. They are not one of you. And then the fifth generation returns us right back to the beginning as pure strain gene stealers, who will then spread across the planet to begin the process all over again. And so one singular gene stealer dropped onto a planet can birth entire generations of them, which will then soften the defenses of that planet so they can signal the Hive Fleet and bring it to the planet to feed. Which, by the way, the gene stealers get eaten too, so, I mean, not exactly a perfect situation. So let me go ahead and put this back up here, and we'll look into what I actually have planned. So if you wanted to actually play with us, and you wanted to play Gene Stealers, here's what we've got going. First off is character creation. Everybody's going to be playing a Gene Stealer. Everybody's going to be making a pure strain Gene Stealer. Now, we're going to be playing in Starfinder, since that's what the Warhammer 40k module is for, and it's the one that best fits. You will still get to pick a class. Okay, this is the important part. You get to pick a class. You can still be a soldier, or you can be a mechanic, or you can be a vanguard, or anything like that. You can be whatever class you want to be, but you have to be a Gene Stealer. And you have to be a pure strain starting out. So what does that get you? Well, you get your choice of a +2 in either Strength, Dexterity, or Constitution. You get a +2 to your Intelligence or Wisdom, one or the other. You take a -2 penalty to your Charisma because you are a bug. Still, you get 5 hit points, you're medium size, you're an aberration, but racial features, let's get into those. So, you have natural weapons. You have a natural bite attack, and you have 2 natural claw attacks, which is great. You have 4 arms, 2 primary arms and 2 secondary arms, but it doesn't matter, it's still 4 arms, which means that you can do all the things that you could normally do with 4 arms. That is, you can hold more tools, you can hold more weapons. It's great. There's a hive mind. You have telepathy with other Tyranids at a range of 10 feet per level, so it caps out at 200 feet of telepathy. And you have evolve. This is a fun one, because what do Tyranids do? They evolve. Every single level, you get to pick 1 biotech, equal to your character level or less, for free. And so, the more Shakespearean among you may be saying, "Hark, what doth that mean?" Let me explain. If we come over here to the Archive of Nethys and we go to Equipment, we have Augmentations. Now, most people automatically go to the Cybernetics, which is great. I love machines. However, much like the the Adeptus Mechanicus on level up get a free cybernetic, the Gene Stealers get a free biotech. And when we look at these, we get things like a gill sheath. We get pressurized lungs, we get bioluminescent skin, we get angler's lights, venom spurs, things of that nature. And I see that JP is in. Hello, JP. Good to see you. Wait, did I not say hi to everybody? I thought that I did. In case I didn't, hi, Alden. Good to see you. Hi, Blizz. Good to see you, too. And hi, JP. Glad to have you here. There. Now I know I got my bases covered. Anyway. Gene Stealers, the pure strains, are going to get one of these every single level. And JP says, Gene Stealers today? No, but since it was kind of asked, I wanted to go over it because I told them that we're going to be running a Gene Stealer game, and if you want in, come play with us. So I figure it doesn't hurt to actually go over what we're doing. Now, everyone's going to get a free biotech every level, equal to their level or less. They have the ability to infect. See, this is how Gene Stealers work. They infect people. And so when they infect somebody using the Gene Stealer Kiss, if they make a successful bite attack, the target must make a fortitude save. The DC is equal to their level times 1.5 rounded down, or be infected with the Gene Stealer virus. The infected may infect others through fluid contact. And I have rules for that later on, but we're not going to get into that right now. If they have infected somebody, they get to dominate them. Now, before I was actually going to use domination, but this is so much better. Any infected thralls have their attitude immediately become helpful. Which means that you don't need to dominate them, they're just going to do stuff for you. Now, because Gene Stealer Primarchs are very powerful, they do come with a level adjustment. And because they are Tyranids, the default NPC attitude towards them will always be hostile. Alright. Now, because of the way Gene Stealers work, we will be playing this in generations, literally 1 year at a time. And then we will do time skips to see exactly how you progress. Every time that we skip time, we move to a new generation, you as players will be able, or have the opportunity rather, to re-roll your character. Okay, and I know what that sounds like, so just hold on. You will get the opportunity to re-roll your character. You will get to keep your XP and re-roll a character of the same level. The first year, you will not get a re-roll because the first generation of Gene Stealers are feral. And so you will be stuck seeing the results of your actions, but you're still going to be stuck as a pure strain Gene Stealer, just now commanding, your own little hive. At the third year, though, or the third generation, that's when we get into the hybrids, the actual hybrids. And those are going to be right here. Because again, if we come back to where was that image? Here it is. Well, technically, I suppose I got these named wrong. This should be Acolyte. Or no, wait. No, these are right. This thing is wrong. I pulled these names directly from the wiki, so, I mean, they should be fine. Anyway, third generation, the second playable generation, is going to be the hybrids. This is the one that is now less alien and a little bit more human. That's why they lose the bite attack. They're still stronger, they still run on instinct, they're still aliens, so, I mean, they're not charismatic. But they lose the bite attack, which means they can't infect anybody anymore. They do still have their claw attacks, though. They're still 4-armed, they still have the hive mind. However, evolve, it's now every 3rd level instead of every level. They do not evolve as fast, but they do still modify themselves as they grow. And the default NPC attitude is still hostile. That's important. Keep that in mind. When we get to the next generation, the true hybrids, they get a bonus to their strength, dexterity, or constitution, whichever they want, intelligence or wisdom, just like the pure strains. Still a penalty to their charisma, but these are the ones that are more like mutants. These are the ones that can first, finally, walk on land without being immediately killed. They lose one of their arms. The other arm they have to keep hidden. But they do retain a natural claw attack. They are 3-armed. And so they can have up to 3 arms worth of equipment. They do still have the hive mind, naturally. They do still evolve, but at this point it's every 4th level. The default NPC attitude, though, becomes unfriendly, not hostile, so people are not willing to help them, but they are also not going to try and kill them on sight either. Again, this is the first generation that can actually interact with society. And then, in the the last generation, 4th, 5th, whatever you want to call it, we have the primacy. These get a +2 to anything they want, just because, you know, they're basically human at this point. They have less hit points, however, they are simply considered a humanoid now. They're an outsider, but they're considered humanoid for all intents and purposes. They still have the hive mind, they still get evolutions, it's every 5th level now, but they do still get biotech evolutions. They are the first of the Gene Stealers to actually get a chance to roll for Psychers, and the default attitude is indifferent, which means that by the time you get to here, the 5th generation, you can actually just walk outside and nobody will notice you. So, those are the characters that you get to play if you want to play with the Gene Stealers. And what are we going to do? Well, it's really simple. I am going to drop you into a city. This city is going to be your representation of the planet. And it's your job to do your best to infect the city without getting caught. There will be 2 competing numbers that I'll be keeping track of. That being how much progress you're made, how large your cult is. And it's not just numbers, it's how large your cult is as a percentage of the planet. And your exposure level. How much do they know about you? Are you completely anonymous and invisible? Or are you actively being hunted? The city that I have developed is going to have an overcity and an undercity. You will probably be spending most of your time in the undercity, which is, you know, safer for you but has less resources. The overcity has more resources but is more dangerous. And of course, there's going to be incursions into the undercity as, you know, the city is going to do city things, and it's going to be your job to try and balance all of this, trying to infect the planet and not get killed in the process. It is going to be a really, really fun game. I just need some people to play it, and we need a time slot. So, again, if you want to play Gene Stealers with us, go to the Discord, go to the Behind the Screen channel, tell me you want to play Gene Stealers, and let me know when you're available. As soon as I have people and a slot that we can agree on, we'll play. And I really want to, because I made this entire weather generator here, and like, I want to go play with it. Because it works really well. And I'm really excited about this. So come and let me play with my weather generator, okay? All right, so that's going to be tangent over then. We'll get back to the anime framework that we were working on. However, I'm just saying, come play with us. Because I want to come play with Gene Stealers now. I don't even really like Gene Stealers, but I want to play with these. Okay? All right, so I need to set this back. And we will get back into the anime framework. All right, so with that being done, let's take a look at what we got to do today. So we're going to be working on character creation. So I'm going to need to have a new need to have a new sheet here. And let's see. Oh, PC's in. Hello, PC. Good to see you here. And PC says, no, not my Levi's. I said before, I'm not stealing those, okay? Your pants are safe. And JP says, to be honest, we kind of asked for a Tyranid. Yes, you did ask for a Tyranid campaign. And then I had to sit there and figure out how the hell do I do a Tyranid campaign? This was literally the only option that I could think of. And, you know, to my credit, I think it's a really good option, and now I'm really excited to try it. I like being given a challenge. That is not what I wanted. There we go. That's still Liberation Seraph. Copy the format. Alright, fine. Be that way. Just do it myself manually. Arial black. 12 point. There. Alright. Let's see. JP says safe. That's debatable. Blizz says it's gonna be good. PC just says I just came into Gene Stealers. That's fair. Okay, so first off, character creation. We're gonna start working on ability scores. So I can't spell. Ability scores. That's weird. Text wrapping automatically? Alright, let's just clear all that. Arial black. 10 point. Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're ready. So, let's start going into strength. Now, when we were talking about strength last time, I brought up Dragon Ball Z because Dragon Ball Z has one of the most absolutely off the chain strength scales in like all of anime. Like to a ridiculous degree. I don't know what other anime is going to be stronger than Dragon Ball Z. So I think it's a good place to start with. And as we discussed last time, when we're talking about like the Z fighters, we looked for the bottom, not the top, because the top of the scale in Dragon Ball Z basically doesn't exist. There's going to come to a point where, like, when we get into the different multipliers and such, the numbers are just not going to matter unless there's somebody else on your scale. Like, I've got the Dragon Ball wiki here. I want to find Let's just go to Goku because this will be the easiest way to do it. Close that. Get rid of that. These wiki pages are getting ridiculous. Forms? Can I find forms? Allegiance? Address? Oh, he actually does have an address. Relatives, counterparts, mentors, students. What I want to find is... that's personality. I'm looking for... maybe appearance? That might work. Let's see. Well, PC says I don't know. They all seem like tops mostly. Maybe not Yamcha. I don't know. There's an argument to be made for Krillin too. Let's see. This is all is like clothing and everything. I want to see Dragon Ball or the Saiyan God mode. That's what I'm looking for. And I figured that it would be in here, but I guess it's not. Series overview, Dragon Ball chapters, all that kind of stuff. Soundtracks, video games. Wow, you know what? This wiki might kind of suck for me. Wow. In that case, let me do a quick search for something real quick. Let me look something up. Dragon Ball power multipliers, because it is just like a strict it's a strict multiplier system. Alright, so this is from the Ultra Dragon Ball Wiki, which might need to be the place that I go. However, we've got Dragon Ball Z, we've got the Great Ape, Fall Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan, Super Saiyan Grade 2, all these things. So, it says here, the Ozaru, the giant monkey. It is a ×10 multiplier. The Golden Great Ape is a ×4000, but I'm pretty sure that was in GT only, and like we don't count GT. Oh, but here we go. Dragon Ball Super. This is where we got into like the Super Saiyan God. Here we go. Saiyan God. And now we're getting into like the actual pinnacle of what we've seen so far. So it says here that the Super Saiyan God multiplier is 20,000. Super Saiyan Blue is 1 million. And we get the idea that like these numbers become truly incomprehensible unless you are also on that level. It gets high enough to the point where if you're not there, you simply don't matter anymore. Which is why I'm not looking at the upper end. Okay? Now that we can see what the upper end looks like, we can just write it off. It doesn't matter anymore. What we need to do is look at the lower end, and we discussed this a little bit last time. With the lower end, we were looking at Chi-Chi. because Chi-Chi is literally a Z fighter and she is the weakest of the Z fighters. And we know this because, she can both give a hit and take a hit. Just one. However, she gets hit by people and she doesn't die. That's the important part. Like, somebody like Majin Buu can literally backhand her across the room and she doesn't die. That is inhuman levels of durability. So, we're looking at the bottom. And when we looked at the bottom, we established last time that Chi-Chi probably has a strength score of about 20. The reason being is that at 20, a heavy load is about 400 pounds, and she can lift, or rather, push and drag, about a ton. She can't really lift a ton, but she can, move a literal ton. Which puts her above peak human, although not by much, as we found out, because apparently, the world powerlift record is 1,200 pounds. It's ridiculous. And if that's lifting it off the ground, then those people could also technically, according to the rules we have, they could also push or pull over a ton. And PC says, took a hit from Beerus. No, wait, that was Bulma. That actually was Bulma. And that is actually a huge wrench in the cogs here, because Bulma is not a Z fighter. Bulma is just human. She is as human as it possibly gets. And so for Beerus to smack her and her not die means that Beerus was incredibly restrained. Which, to be fair, he is always restrained. He is the destroyer. He destroys pretty much anything on a whim. So anyway, getting back to Chi-Chi, we're talking about a strength of 20. Now, one of the things that I was considering is that when we roll, dice here, there's primarily two ways that we do it. The first way, the original way, is that you roll 4d6 and keep the top. So we would do this. We would go roll 4d6, sort them, and we would discard the lower number. So for this example, I rolled 2, 5, 5, that's a 12. That's fine. And we would do this for all of our stats. We roll them again. This is going to be 3, 3, and 5 is going to be 11. Or rather, we can just take the number and subtract this one. So that's going to be a 15. This one will be a 10, and so on and so forth. Now, I don't usually do it this way, because I have virtual dice. I usually use 1d9 plus 9, which gives me a usable number every time, and it never goes down below 10. So a 13, and an 11, and a 14. That's nice. And JP says, anyone with the Destroyer in their name is usually a bad guy. Beerus isn't a bad guy. Beerus is not a bad guy. Says also the dice are hidden, just black squares on screen. That's because I'm the GM. I'm allowed to have hidden dice. So anyway, this is how we usually roll dice. The problem is that these are going to give us normal people. Okay? And we don't want to have normal people. Okay, we need to have super people. So, if the average for normal people is a 10, and Chi-Chi is a 20, and she's the weakest of the Z fighters, Well, we need our strength minimum to be 20. It has to be a minimum of 20 because we're building up from there. So with a minimum of 20, how then are we going to establish, whatever we're going to do? So we could go ahead and use the same rules that we did before. We could go ahead and say we can go back and use the same roll, and we can apply that with a base of 20. So we could go with the 4d6s. That gives us a 16 here. We could also we could make this into a 3. If we add the 20, that gives us, in this case, a 37. So if we do this, this is going to give us a base level, absolute minimum of 23. Which may not be the way to go. Let's think about this. 23. That's a weird number. I don't like it. I would like our minimum to be 20. So what if instead we did a plus 17? Now, if we rolled a 1 on everything, it would be a 20. Which is great, because that's like literally Chi-Chi's level. Okay? So absolute bare minimum. You rolled a 1 on all 3 of your dice, and that's it. So what happens if we roll everything? 17 plus 18 is going to be... I forgot how to do math. 35. 17 plus 18 is 35. An odd number is not the worst thing. So our top would actually be over this. So we don't have technically a good number, but it's fine. I got this. Technically speaking, you can calculate any bonus for any score like this. The bonus for any score is going to be your ability score minus 10, and then divided by 2. And JP says no maths on Sunday. You came to the wrong place then. Okay? You came to the wrong place. Because we're doing math. Technically speaking, I gotta put, because of order of operations. I'm gonna put parentheses around those. That was weird. Just like shuffled my spreadsheets. So your ability score is going to be divided by 10, or minus 10 divided by 2, then rounded down. So if we have a strength score of 35, that's then going to become 25. We divide that by 2 and round that down, then it's going to be a plus 12. Apparently, I still have this formatted to numbers. There we go. And if we come back and we look at our actual ability scores, here we go. A strength score of 30 is a plus 10 bonus, which means that 32 is going to be plus 11. 34 and 35 is going to be a plus 12. See? It all works out. Which means that looking at the system that we currently have here, oh, and JP says, but we did math on Friday. We did, because that's when we play games. And if you would like to come play Star Trek with us, come join us on Friday. We play on Friday evenings, Eastern Standard Time in the US. And yeah, game's getting close to the end, but we still have lots to do. So, if you want to play Star Trek with us, you can still catch the end. Come play with us. Anyway. PC says, warning, stream contains weapons of math instruction. Yes, it does. All right, so this is going to work for all of our skills. And by the way, remember how it was saying that, like, Goku's strength score becomes absolutely ridiculous? Let's assume that Goku has that strength score at 35. Pretty sure it's closer to like 80, but sure. Let's go ahead and just say that he has a strength score of 35. When he goes Super Saiyan Blue, that multiplies it by 1 million. Okay, 1 million. That means that his strength score is going to be 35 million. Now, it seems like that's broken, right? That's absolutely ridiculous. Well, minus 10. It's going to be 34. Come on. 34. 999. 990. Okay. Perfect. And then I just have to divide that by 2. So Goku's strength bonus is a plus 17,499,995. For the blue one. Like I said, once we start reaching the upper echelons of these numbers, they start becoming just absolutely incomprehensible. Which is fine for what we're doing, but it does mean that we have to at least acknowledge it. So I do think that this works. I think that it should be essentially for character generation. For generation, 3d6 plus 17. Which gives us a range of 20 to 35. And JP just says, is that all? And Alan says, I guess that's Dragon Ball for you. Yes, yes it is. It is very much that's Dragon Ball for you. So, I do think this is going to work for strength. This is going to give us effectively superhuman characters. Superhuman enough? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Now, one of the things that we're going to get into, I think later on, is going to be the spectacle attacks, which is when we're going to get into, like, throwing your opponents around. But that'll have to come later. Oh, and Blizz says gotta go. Gotta mosey. Alright, well, Blizz, I was glad to have you here. Thank you for coming. And I'll see you next... No, I won't see you next week, because I'll be out of town next week. Like, legitimately out of town this time. Like, I was wrong about this week. I will see you the week after next week, when we get back to this. Otherwise, take care. Okay, so that is going to take care of the strength score, and I think that's really good. It's going to be a bare minimum of Chi-Chi's strength, and it's going to go up from there. Now, the thing that we have to remember, though, is that, like, I was just researching, like, Goku. And the show Dragon Ball is about Goku. However, you will not be playing Goku, or Vegeta, or Piccolo, or anybody else like that. And so, I don't really need to worry about too many of these, like, upper echelons, because the most that my players are probably going to see is going to be, like, Super Saiyan, or the equivalent thereof. It's kind of the same thing, like, if we're talking about Naruto. Are the characters in Naruto stronger than average? Yeah, they're all like superhuman strength. And they're superhuman strength because they can use chakra to actually boost their abilities. However, you are not going to be Naruto. You are not going to be Sasuke. You are not going to be a Jinchuriki. Okay? You're not going to get a tailed beast. The most that you as players can hope for when we play Naruto is you'll be able to pick your clan. And so your clan may come with a particular ability. So you may come with a dojutsu, you may come with a Kekkei Genkai, you may come with something special about you, but you are not going to be this like one in the entire world kind of character. You're going to be essentially background character number 37 who gets to become the hero. Which is essentially what every single game is like. I mean, if you're playing just regular Dungeons and Dragons, and your level 1 party meets in a tavern, you are nobodies. You don't have any experience, you don't have any accolades, you don't have any titles. You don't have anything. So, this is what we're working on. You're not going to be the absolute pinnacle of what the setting has. But you will be better. You will be better than the average. So I think that's going to work for that. Now, dexterity. We could do the same thing for dexterity and for constitution. Do we like that? Well, for dexterity, of course, dexterity is going to add to your armor class. So if you had the same stats here, I'm just going to go ahead and put a plus 5 to a plus 12, because we need to keep that in mind. If we did this to dexterity, it means that every single character would be getting anywhere from a plus 5 to a plus 12 to their armor class just for evasion. Now, what does that mean? So, the way that, I'm just going to put this down here. Dexterity. So, of course, this is going to boost your armor class. Now, let's break down the armor class for a moment. Okay, let's break it down. All right, we're going to break it down. Armor class is usually written like this. It is 10 plus dexterity plus armor plus miscellaneous modifiers. Usually, though, instead of miscellaneous, it'll say plus evasion plus luck plus morale, things of that nature. Now, we're going to ignore these last three for the moment. Okay, we're going to ignore these because those are absolutely a thing that you get for armor. But just standing there without anybody else's help, this is what you got. Now, let's break this down a little bit further into what these actually mean. So, 10 is a random chance. It is a literal coin toss. If you are just standing there and somebody takes a shot at you, they have a random chance to hit you. Okay? Now, for your dexterity bonus, this is your ability to avoid an attack. So if somebody were to throw something at you, if somebody were to shoot at you or whatever, your dexterity is your evasion. And then your armor is what saves you in the off chance that your evasion fails. And so we'll just call this one your toughness. This is your armor class. And this is why, by the by, my players in my Star Trek game will understand this. This is why I will tell them that you successfully hit a target, but failed to hurt it. Because if we're attacking something, like a starship, and you roll higher than the random chance, which is 10, higher than the evasion, which is their piloting modifier or their dexterity bonus, but lower than their toughness, you have technically hit them, but failed to hurt them. And so if we look at a character here, and let's just go ahead and we're gonna make a roll here. So it's gonna do a random roll, and our current character has a 26. So a 26 for their dexterity. So that's going to be a 10 plus... Oh, go back. 26. No, not 26. A 26 in dexterity is going to be... let's see, minus 10 is going to be... Or 16 divided by 2 is going to be 8. So plus 8. Plus, I don't know what the armor class of Saiyan armor is. I don't. But let's just say it's a plus 4. Okay. So that's going to give us an AC of 22. So let's go ahead and assume that we've got a level 4 warrior just to make this easy. And I'm going to roll one, let's see. 1d20 plus 1d4 for their base attack bonus, plus 1d4 for their ability score. And I rolled a 19 plus 1 plus 3, that is 23. That is a hit. Okay, so pass the random chance, pass the evasion, pass the toughness, and now they get to do damage. That was on a 19, though. If I roll again, 7. That is a complete swing and a miss. Does not even get past the random chance to hit. If I roll it again, natural 20. Always a hit. We'll ignore that one for now. You're mocking me. Okay, rolling again, 15 plus a 4 plus a 4 is 23, also a hit. I don't know who this person is, but they're getting the absolute crap beat out of them. 25 is also a hit. Wow, why can't I roll like this during a normal game? Another crit! Can I get anything like in the middle? There we go. Finally, something more reasonable. God damn. Okay, so I rolled a 16 plus a 1 from the base attack bonus plus a 3 from the ability score, which gives me a 20. Which means that we have successfully passed the random chance. We have passed the evasion. We hit the armor. We did not penetrate the armor. No damage. And Alden says, Test Dummy 1 has been obliterated. No kidding. Can't roll like this when I'm playing other games like Baldur's Gate. No. Baldur's Gate, I roll 3 1s. I do a stream, 3 20s. Okay, so I think that there's a good thing going here because most average people, like say a farmer with a shotgun, are probably going to struggle to hit an AC 22. Now this could be as low as a 15, you know, no armor, and just rolled a bare minimum of 20. Could be as high as a 22 standing there naked, if you rolled the highest evasion, or the highest dexterity. There is, I think this is going to work out pretty well. I think it'll work out pretty well, especially since when we're talking about, like, the Saiyans. Since Super Saiyan multiplies your dexterity as well, it's going to become absolutely insane. There is one more thing, though, that I want to include here. And that's going to be move speed. Now, we all know that characters in anime tend to move fast. In fact, they tend to move faster than normal. This is going to be kind of an optional rule depending on the setting. However, what I think we're going to do is we're going to replace move speed with dex modifier. Now, what does that mean? That means that we're going to, instead of having just like a racial thing say, well, you move 30 feet per round, well, that's normal. We need to be better than normal. Move speed is going to equal the dexterity modifier times 10. So, a person who rolls just a bare minimum of 20 will have a move speed of 50 feet per round, which is a lot. Okay, that is a lot. A person with a dexterity with a plus 12 is going to be 120 feet per round, which is also a lot. Is it broken, though? Well, not as broken as you think. If we come back here and look at the monk. So the monk, being the unarmed badasses that they are, they get fast movement. It's literally over here on the side. Now at level 1 and 2, there's no bonus, but starting at level 3, they get a 10-foot bonus to their move speed. So if their base movement speed was 30, they can now move 40 feet. But look at how it goes up until they reach level 18, where they get a plus 60 to their movement speed. And it literally says at the 3rd level, they get an enhancement bonus to their land speed shown on the table. A monk in armor or carrying a medium or heavy load loses this extra speed. They do not like to be encumbered, but I mean, they're monks, so that was kind of already assumed. Anyway, the point being is that this is like peak human, okay? Peak human. If we remember that the average walking speed for people is roughly 3 miles an hour. So that's overland speed. And your movement speed is basically just your overland speed times 10, and then just rendered in feet. That means that monks technically have a walking speed of 9 miles an hour. And since running speed is times 4, or times 5 if you actually have the feet, that means that a monk's running speed is going to be, let's see, 9 miles an hour times 4 is 36 miles per hour. Now they can only do that for a number of rounds equal to their constitution score, but regardless, 36 miles an hour. Unless I have the actual feet, in which case it then goes up to, let's see, 9 times 5 is 45 miles an hour. Which is crazy. So, at those speeds, a high-level monk would actually be faster than a low-level anime protagonist. Which I think is great, because it shows that even, like, regular people can still excel if they're the right kind of people. It does mean, however, that the top end is still going to be the top end. So if somebody rolls like a 35, their bonus is a plus 12, 120 feet per round. That's 12 miles an hour walking speed, or 48 miles an hour running speed. Which again is fast, but we have to keep in mind what we're talking about here. We're referencing, anime protagonists, so I think this is going to work out really well. It also means that if we talk about, characters like Goku, well, Goku's pretty much just faster than light at this point. Which is what we see in the shows and in the manga. He can basically teleport. In fact, all of them can, for the most part. Even in Dragon Ball, Tien's multi-form technique literally relies on him being so fast the eye cannot keep up with him. And so he leaves behind the after images. So I do think that that's going to work for the move speed. I think that's really all that we have to do. The only other thing that dexterity is going to affect is going to be reflex saves. And I think that the reflex save is fine the way it is. We don't need to touch that. Just let your bonus affect your reflex save as normal. And it'll be fine. So it's great. In that case, let's go ahead and take a look at Constitution then, the last one. So Constitution is going to be HP and Fortitude saves. Now, naturally, when it comes to HP, everyone is going to get a certain number of HP per level. If it's Pathfinder, you're going to roll a dice. If it's Starfinder, you get a set number of HP per level, and you get a set number of stamina points plus whatever your Constitution modifier is. So this all works really well, and of course, naturally, since the minimum is plus 5, the maximum is plus 12, every single character is going to come away feeling incredibly tough right out the gate. Which is great. That's exactly what we want. These people do not go down easily. Like I said, Chi-Chi has been smacked across the room before. And she lived. It's got to say something for how tough she is. So there's nothing there that we need to change. The same thing goes for fortitude saves. So what is going to change? Well, there is one thing that I think that I want to do. And that is that I want to give them a natural damage reduction. Okay? Not natural armor, but natural damage reduction, which is going to be very, very powerful. So, how does this work? Well, natural damage reduction, and I want this to equal their Constitution bonus. This means that a low rolling person with only a 20 in Constitution will have a natural 5-point damage reduction. Somebody who rolls high would have a natural 12 damage reduction. Which seems a little overpowered and such. However, I mean, is this uncalled for? I think the answer to this is no. And the reason being is that, as I said last time when we were talking about like Dragon Ball Z, and not just Dragon Ball Z, but other such anime, these people can literally get shot with a gun and walk it off. And I want to look into some of those. So we're already in we're in Pathfinder right here. I want to go to equipment. Now, Pathfinder is primarily fantasy. However, if we come over here to... Actually, not that. I want to go into weapons. And specifically, I want to get into firearms. So, with the whole fantasy setting, it does do firearms, but it's primarily earlier firearms. So early firearms, we've got breech loaders, we've got pepper boxes, we have pistols, flintlock pistols primarily. Early two-handed firearms, we have the blunderbusses, fire lances, muskets, things of that nature. Advanced firearms, this is where we're getting into primarily frontier firearms, Wild West. Revolvers, rifles, and shotguns. Now, when we look at the damage for these, a revolver deals 1d8. A rifle does 1d10. A shotgun does 1d8. Although it is scatter, so it does 1d8 to everything in the area. But if we're looking at Farmer with a shotgun, well, there's a shotgun. My point here is that a 1d8 for the shotgun. If you were to put this gun up to Krillin and pull the trigger, is Krillin going to die? The answer is no. As a matter of fact, Krillin is probably not going to be fazed by it because the only thing that a shotgun is going to threaten is his shirt. And PC says early firearms are more common than you think, about 1 in 10. Well, that's true. However, my point is that this is what we have available in Pathfinder, if we were going to use it. If we come over here to Starfinder, I'm going to go to weapons, and I hate coming to weapons because this is always... For some reason, their weapons pages take forever to load, and I don't know why. But Starfinder basically picks up where Pathfinder leaves off. And let me explain. So I'm going to... I'm going to stick to here. I'm going to stick to these by level. I'm going to sort this by level, actually. Because I want to look at a level 1 rifle. And where is it going to be? Not a laser rifle. Projectile rifle. Here we go. A hunting rifle is 1d8. Okay? Scattergun, utility, 1d4. So it's actually even weaker than the shotgun in Pathfinder. But this just says a scattergun fires fragmentary shells in a spray from the barrel, dealing damage to all targets in range. The shortened barrel of the snub scattergun makes it easier to conceal. Grape shot, impact, and vortex scatterguns are designed to deliver enhanced damage. But this is just the utility version. And so it just does 1d4 damage. And 1d4 damage is something that even Chi-Chi would be walking off easily. Now, does this mean that we can or that other things cannot hurt them. Well, no, because if we were to go up to, say, level 5 weapons, let me see if I can find something here. I'm looking for like an actual rifle, not a rocket rifle. Medusa rifle. Actually, what am I doing here? Let me just go back to the scattergun. So at level 8, the scattergun does 1d12 damage. Okay, well, that is getting a little bit more threatening. At level 12, it does 2d12 damage. This is actually threatening. At level 15, it's 3d12 damage. Okay. And at level 18, 4d12 damage. Well, now we're getting into some actually dangerous weapons for somebody like this. However, something to keep in mind is that while these are getting to be very impressive numbers, what happens as soon as Goku goes Super Saiyan? First off, I don't think you're going to even be able to hit him, and even if you did, it's not going to hurt him. In fact, Goku can pretty much tank cannon rounds. And we know that he can because Cell did. And Goku was pretty much on par, or maybe just slightly below, Cell. And PC says, Waza rifles? Well, here's the problem with that. Who's got lasers in Dragon Ball? Man, this isn't exclusive to Dragon Ball. This is a general anime framework, but the point is that, like, I was talking about Dragon Ball, and as far as I know, they don't have them. Still, though, the rules are the same. If we were running this in any other type of anime, I'm not exactly sure which one off the top of my head, but if it was any other anime, an Azimuth laser rifle does 1d8 damage. Okay. Well, I mean, depending on what they roll and depending on what your constitution is, yeah, you're just going to shrug it off. And PC says Nappa tanked cannon shells. And I mean, Nappa's only worth like 3 Raditz. So, yeah. I think the damage reduction is good. I think it really is. This also means that, you know, when it comes to a, when it comes to what is actually a threat to you, most of the world is going to simply fall away, and the only thing that's really going to be important for you is going to be other people of your tier, which I think is appropriate. I'm reminded of the fight between Superman and Darkseid and his infamous World of Cardboard speech, because that is essentially the world that we are creating. The idea is going to be really simple, that, like, we're going to create a system that is going to turn the world from being normal into weak. Because we're going to be able to say that, you know, if you get hit, you can get thrown, and you can potentially get thrown right through a wall. So, that's what we're trying to do. JP says, doesn't Frieza use a Wazer at some point? Not exactly, but yes. It's not a laser, but it is a really small beam. It's literally just called the Death Beam. But it does exactly what you're saying anyway. It's just significantly more powerful. And that, again, that's going to fall into, like, the spectacle attacks, because we would need to go through and actually model that. But the fact of the matter remains that, yeah, does Frieza have kind of a laser? Sure. If you were to shoot a laser at Frieza, though, is it going to hurt him? No, it's really not. Especially since since we're talking about Frieza, Frieza is stronger than Saiyans, but weaker than Super Saiyan. And since Super Saiyan, if we come up here, or come back to this page, Super Saiyan has a multiplier of 50. Okay? 50! That means that if we were going to, like, do a quick little estimate, since we're comparing Frieza and Goku, if Goku's going to automatically have 35, then Frieza will have basically the same. Well, Goku having 35, let's see. Since we're multiplying here, 35 times 50 is 1,750. So 35 becomes 1,750. And PC says, well, no, the laser rifle can't kill anyone. They only ever cause light damage. Okay, you're getting banned. I'm gonna temporarily ban you. Anyway, let's see. This is going to become 1740. I divide that by 2. That is going to be a plus 870. A plus 870 basically means that that is an 870 point reduction. Which again gets truly ridiculous. At 870 points, if we were playing this in Starfinder, Super Saiyan Goku can essentially tank starship weapons. Because, I don't remember exactly where it's written, starship weapons are not useful against infantry. The targeting system just doesn't work for it. But, what I do have is this. If you use infantry weapons against a starship, you divide all the damage by 10 before applying it. So if you have a weapon that does like 1d8, it literally cannot hurt a starship. But if we assume that because infantry weapons are all divided by 10 when they hit a starship, that starship weapons, if they were to hit infantry, would all be multiplied by 10. So, if a laser from a starship only does like 2d4 damage, well, that would then become 2d4 times 10 damage to infantry. Well, 2d4 times 10 is 20 to 80 points of damage, which to Goku would mean nothing. It would mean literally nothing. So I do think that these numbers are going to work out really well. Again, we're creating a world where everything else around you is basically kind of meaningless. And we can really focus in on what's actually important to you, the things on your level. Keep in mind, this is going to apply to everything, though. So, for Dragon Ball, yeah, Dragon Ball has always been about the spectacle fights. For Naruto, it's always been about, the big ninja clashes. For Bleach, it's about Soul Reapers throwing all kinds of attacks, things like that. But keep in mind that we can also use this for, even some more reasonably grounded anime, like maybe Full Metal Alchemist. I'm not sure if it would necessarily apply to everybody in Full Metal Alchemist. It might only apply selectively. For example, Major Armstrong probably deserves to get the anime framework strength score. Does he get the dexterity score? Probably not. I mean, he's strong, but he's not necessarily that fast. Does everybody get the Constitution? I don't know. But they do still live in a world and interact with a world of other people, normal people, and so it's important. It's important to think about how these things actually work out. But we'll get to that whenever we decide to do Full Metal Alchemist. I think this is going to work out, though. I think having the damage reduction there is going to be good. I just realized that I misspelled Constitution. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so that takes care of the ability scores, the dexterity, and armor class. One thing that I do think is missing, though, is going to be for the strength. I was going to save this for the spectacle attacks, but I've got some time still. Let's see. JP says, I want to campaign as civilians trying to stay alive while superheroes are battling an invasion. We have to escape collapsing buildings, falling debris, etc. Okay. Play the Gene Stealer game and get the attention of one of the Astartes chapters. Have fun. If you want to do it, you can do it. I mean, I have considered like a superhero framework, but that'd be so hard. I'm not even sure how I would do that. Then again, I'm always up for a challenge, so maybe. A campaign like that, though, wouldn't be too terribly long, though, I don't think. That'd be a good opener for a campaign. And then you'd have to have like an objective to strive for after that. Alright, so I think this is good. One thing that I am going to do is I'm going to move this stuff down. As far as strength goes. So, when making attacks with strength, I want the ability to actually move people. Because in Dragon Ball, and I know I keep coming back to Dragon Ball, but in Dragon Ball, we see people, when they get hit, they sometimes go flying. And I want to be able to replicate that. And there's a couple of ways to go about doing that, but I'm not sure exactly how I want to do it. So, moving people. I want to say that on a successful attack, so in other words, an attack that does damage, you can choose, okay, you don't have to, but you can choose to reposition. Now, when we do this, they're going to have to make a fortitude save, which goes back to the whole Constitution thing. Okay? Higher Constitution. It is going to be a fortitude save versus... fortitude save versus... it's either going to be the damage or their strength. If it's a bare-handed fight... I'm not sure exactly how I would do that. I'm going to go ahead and I want to say versus the damage. be a fortitude save versus damage. And on failure, the target will be repositioned directly away and JP says, first you need a bear. I'm not sure what I need a bear for. Reposition directly away. It's going to be... Now, how do we want to do this? Because it could be equal to the damage times 5. Well, okay. If we simply did a number of feet equal to the damage, well, that's only going to be like 2 or 3 squares at most. We need to send people really flying. No, we're going to say X feet equal to the damage times 5. Oh, for bare hand fighting. Right. Well, I mean, we can't really do that because they don't have any anymore. That whole pesky, right to bear arms. Well, the bears don't have arms anymore. It's really one of those it's one of those environmental causes that nobody seems to get behind. Nobody thinks of the bears. Well, this is the polar bears, but I mean, they can swim. So, if you choose to reposition them, they get to make a fortitude save versus the damage, which should be fair. And I say fair because an unarmed attack is 1d3 damage. However, I do not know if we're going to be using, say, the monk scale. So we come back here and we look at the monk. Monks automatically start off with the ability to do unarmed damage, and they start off with a 1d6. That goes up to a 1d8, a 1d10, a 2d6, a 2d8, and then, at level 20, a 2d10 damage with their bare hands. And of course, that also includes their strength bonus as well. 2d10... plus whatever your strength bonus is, like for our Saiyans. If it was a high number, like they push themselves up to like a strength of 40. I don't know if they could do that or not, but a strength of 40, yeah, they could do that. Strength of 40 is going to be a plus 15, which means that if they were rolling damage for a punch, just a regular punch, 2d10 plus 15 is a minimum of 17, a maximum of 37, and an average, if I can do my math right, of 12 plus 17, which would be 29. So, a fortitude save versus a 29? Well, we are talking about like level 20 here, so I don't know. Either way, it seems pretty reasonable. Now, if they actually failed it and they got hit, 29 times 5. Hold on, I need my calculator for this one. 29 times 5 is 145 feet, or 29 squares. And so 29 squares, like directly backwards, is a pretty long way. That is, believe it or not, actually a distance that could be moved. Like, if your dexterity was that high, you can easily move 150 feet per round. So you could not just punch them, but you could catch them too. I think I like it. It may take a little bit of tweaking, but I think I like it. And of course, if they were to crash into anything along the way, well, I mean, then you're going to actually take it would be damage essentially equivalent to fall damage. Let me just go ahead and put that in. If the target collides with the environment, treat as fall damage. So, fall damage in general, if I bite my tongue one more time, I swear I'm going to scream. If fall damage in general is treated as 1d6 damage for every 10 feet, ignoring the first 10 feet. So, if somebody were to get hit by this and then they get hit, or they hit something along the way, let me just roll a die here. Uh, 1d 145, so 139. Well, we're going to roll or round down, so it's going to be 130. We're going to cut the first 10 feet because they don't count, so that's 120. That's going to end up being 12d6. So let's say that you get hit by this, and then you fly backwards into a wall, which is then going to do 12d6 additional damage. 50 damage. Now, here's the fun part. Here's the fun part. That damage is not just applied to you, although it is applied to you. You're going to take 50 points of damage, of course, accepting whatever damage reduction you have. However, equipment. Let's see, special materials. I don't want special materials. Let me go here. Let's go game mastering. And I want combat maneuvers, sundering. Here we go. So, substance, hardness, and hit points. Wood. Okay? Wood has an average of 5 hardness and 10 hit points per inch of thickness. So how thick is a wooden wall? That's actually a little bit hard. See, first off, that's going to change depending on where you are. I live in the United States, where we use mostly stick frame construction. And we do so because it is the best way to build in the United States, given our abundance of lumber. However, stick frame construction means that we have a stick frame for the house, and then we have an outer wall for protection, an insulation layer, and then we usually have a thin inner wall, which is usually drywall, sheetrock. So I don't actually know how you would represent a modern American house in this system. But even if we assumed that it was like a a 1-inch thick wall, or even a 2-inch thick wall, because, 2x4s, right? If you hit the wall and you did 50 points of damage to the wall, well, first off, smashing an object. Let's see, energy attacks deal half damage to most objects. I thought objects took half damage in general. Many are tough enough to shrug off some damage to each blow. The armor class equal to 10. Yes, yes, yes. Inanimate objects has not only a dexterity of 0, but also a -2 penalty to its AC. Furthermore, if you do this, blah, blah, blah. No, I guess not. So, if you were to get thrown into this wooden wall that is 2 inches thick, like 2x4s, let's see. Strong wooden door, masonry wall, hewn wall. Okay, none of those really help me. I'm just going to go back to looking at wood. So we're going to take off 5 damage. That leaves 45 left over. You apply your 45 damage to the 20 hit points of wood for the wall, and you go through the wall for the rest of the distance. So you're in a fight, somebody hits you, somebody deals damage to you, they choose to reposition. Okay? So they do a successful attack, they choose to reposition, you make a fortitude save versus the damage, you fail that, you get repositioned, and it's like 29 damage, so you get repositioned 145 feet away, you collide with the environment, we treat that as fall damage, you take 50 more points of damage, the wall takes 50 more points of damage, and you go through it. And this is where we get into like the heart of where the world of cardboard starts to really set in, because you're going to have other like civilians, normal people around you, and they're going to have normal lives, they're going to have normal houses, they're going to have normal cars, and normal everything, and you're on another level to where even the buildings that they have is just going to be ridiculous. JP says, is reposition an action? No, it is not. Because this is on a successful hit. So, yeah, on a successful attack, as a free action, you can choose to reposition. Good question. Good question. Needed to put that in there. So as a free action, you can choose to reposition. And this is why when we see in like Dragon Ball, when people are fighting, they can throw a punch in one scene where they just hit the enemy, and they can do another punch in a different scene, maybe even the immediate following scene, where they throw somebody through a mountain. And so that's how we're going to handle this. And I think it works well. I think this will add an entirely new layer to the fight. JP says, if choosing it as a free action opens up an attack of opportunity, no, it does not. And the reason being is this is not an actual reposition action like you'd be doing with a combat maneuver. Which means that perhaps I need to have a different name for it. I'll think of a different name for it, because reposition is already kind of taken. It's going to simply depend on if you are fighting, if you get hit or you hit them. You will have the choice to move them. And if you choose to, great. And if you don't choose to, also great. It's up to you. Which means that we can have both pinball fights where people are throwing each other around all over the place, or just a regular fight, regular slugfest. It also means that if you wanted to make room, all you have to do is hit them, damage them, succeed on your repositioning attempt, and if you get all 3 of those, you have made space. And now you're free to use things like energy attacks or fire weapons or whatever it is that you have to do. It will make it a little bit more cinematic. It'll make it a little bit more interesting. It also explains why they choose to fight in the middle of nowhere. Because the fact of the matter is, collateral damage is a thing. So, with that done, I think we're pretty good when it comes to the whole character creation thing. We can get rid of this. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but I can take care of that. So I think we've got a good thing going here with the 3d6 plus 17. I think that'll be great for starting characters. It gives a good range. And I think that there's enough here that makes them special to, even at level 1, put your character in a different league from what other characters would be. I mean, just on its own, you're going to have higher stats, but not just that. The ability to reposition, the ability to move faster, and the ability to shrug off things that would otherwise, be damaging is going to just... You're going to be a part of a different world, even if you're sharing it with everybody else. And because this is an anime framework, even if we're looking at like Dragon Ball, this can apply to the Saiyans, this can apply to the humans, this can apply to the Namekians, this can apply to anybody. And in pretty much every other anime, we can apply this to anybody. Anybody, everybody. Even for like JoJo was mentioned. I don't think that this would apply to any of the stand users, but this is also the basis for our stands. They get to roll these kind of numbers too. So I think it's good. I think this is a fine place for us to be right now. We can start generating characters with this right now, and we would have sufficiently super-powered characters. And essentially they're picking up where everybody else is leaving off. So that's good. Which means that when we get back here next time, which again is going to be a couple of weeks, we can move on from the character creation stuff into the spectacle attacks. So how are we going to build them? How do we handle charging? How do we handle clashing? Things like that. And JP says, not sure if Dragon Ball Z is the right one to base it on, too OP. Actually, that's why I'm using that one as such an example. Because we already have heroic characters. See, the average for most people is 10. Okay, that's why when we go back and we look at ability scores, and let me just pop back there for a moment. Ability scores. 10. 10 in strength. Human. Can literally pull their own weight. 10 for dexterity. Capable of catching a small toss object. Average human agility. 10 for constitution. Occasionally contracts mild sicknesses. Average human healthiness. 10 is the average. Okay? Anything over 10 is above average. Which is why all of our PCs, like yours in the Star Trek game, which, by the way, did I mention it's a Star Trek game? You should come play with us. That's why your character in the Star Trek game is above average. And you know what? I'm going to single you out. Okay? I'm going to single you out. I'm gonna do it. Your character, Zirin, you have a 10 in strength. You have a perfectly average strength. However, your dexterity is 15. A 15 in dexterity can dodge or can catch or dodge a medium speed surprise projectile. So if somebody pulls a gun on you, you can already probably dodge it. Your constitution is 14. You're able to labor for 12 hours on most days. Not to mention you can take a few hits. Your intelligence is 19. Okay? 19. Genius level intelligence. Your wisdom is 16, your charisma is 15. My point here is 10 is average. It's our baseline. All PCs, by nature of being PCs, are above average. And sometimes, often, bordering on the outright heroic. And heroic is usually the absolute pinnacle of what you can achieve. What we're building here is superhuman. JP says, I feel like maybe Full Metal Alchemist has a better base play setting. Dragon Ball Z is OP by comparison. It is. But that's why we're working on this. We're working on Dragon Ball Z as our metric because this is going to show us what the upper end looks like. Again, you will not be Goku or Vegeta or any of the Z fighters really. But you are going to fall in an area between regular heroic characters and the absolutely ridiculously overpowered canon characters. Does Full Metal Alchemist have a better base play setting? Yeah, it does. Full Metal Alchemist also may not even require these rules. It may, like I said, Armstrong, ridiculously strong. As a matter of fact, this might even apply to many of the homunculus. And so, it's going to be in there just so that we can use it if we need it. But we need to know what that upper end looks like so that we can balance everything in between. Which is why I'm not looking too much at like the Super Saiyans and stuff like that. I'm looking at what can people do in base form and then what does that look like if we were to see it go further. Because I can guarantee, like, somebody with a 35 in strength, yeah, that's not a Super Saiyan. That's them in base. And it also shows off just how absolutely ridiculous it is once they do get there. So, with that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave it off here. Like I said, when we get back here next time, we will start working on all these spectacle attacks. The framework for actually putting these things together. I'm not making a Kamehameha wave. I'm just putting in what are the things that we're going to need to allow us to create it. How do you charge it? How does it interact with things? How much damage does it do? Or what kind of damage does it do? So that's what we're going to be building. Anyway, though, we're done here for today. So, again, I'm going to be out next week. I'm going to be out of town, so there's not going to be anything for the 31st. Yeah, the 31st. So there's not going to be a stream on the 31st. I will be back on the following Sunday, and I hope I will have you here. So, again, if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do that. Hit the bell icon. That way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into either anime or tabletop gaming, then share this with them. If you like me, you like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video. you can leave a comment down below. But if you do that, might I suggest join the Discord where we are currently playing games. Come play with us. I want people to play with. So come play with us. And PC says you charge it by singing the Mana song. You do you, okay? You do you. So anyway, come play with us. Otherwise, I will see you in a couple of weeks. I hope to see you all here. Alden, glad to have you here. JP, same thing. PC, thank you for coming. Thank everybody for coming. And everyone else, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend and take care.